watching Hootsgiving with your host, Hoots. Hey my fellow Hooties, and welcome to the first review of Hootsgiving. And for my first review, I'm going to talk about a Thanksgiving episode that's certainly one to remember, and not for a good reason, unfortunately. And that's because of one Peggy Hill. Now, I stated in my Pygmalion review that there are things I like about Peggy Hill, her dedication to not only the many job that she's been a part of, whether it be substitute teacher, real estate agent, former restaurateur, as temporary owner of Sugarfoots when Miss Liz had enough of Bug's infidelity, in Season 4, Episode 13, Hanky Panky, public notary, and occasional modern art sculptor, and journalist/muse writer, which she basically took from men, because without her, Peggy almost told people to make mustard gas, but she also protects her family. Her niece was one example in the case of the episode Pygmalion, but she was also the one that put her in the path of Trip Larson in the first place. Even though there are episodes that she learns nothing from her actions and then refuses to apologize for them. One good example being Season 6, Episode 3, Lupe's Revenge. She tries to correct the wrongs that she caused, and most times her ego, which admittedly compels her to resolve her situations on her own, she has leaned on Hank to help her out with situations. However, this is not the case, as she went from being a supportive mom when Bobby picked up home economics, or just home ec for short, and becomes jealous when Bobby proves to do a better job than her, even getting Hank to change his tune about Bobby taking the class, and it leads her to do horrible things and say things she would never normally say. With that being said, let's get our snacks, drinks, and gather around as a fam. Or, if it's just you, gather at the computer as we get into King of the Hill, Season 7, Episode 4, Goodbye Normal Jeans. Now, I'll be honest, this is by no means my least favorite Peggy episode, but this certainly isn't one of Peggy's best either. She's hypocritical, rude, and basically ruins Thanksgiving for herself and the fam, all because she thought Bobby was showing her up not only in cooking, but in cleaning, and it's her inflated ego that is really the reason for her acting the way that she does. Now, I can try and think of a reason why Peggy would behave the way that we're about to see, but I'm gonna be honest with you fellow Hooties, there's no reason for her to act this petty and jealous towards her own son, and for that matter, get mad at Hank for showing support for his son when she was the one that was telling him that he should be supportive of Bobby and what he's interested in, even though he may feel Bobby isn't right. The fact that it was Peggy of all people that was upset that Bobby picked up a new hobby, that even though after this episode we don't see him doing anymore, which I hate to think that this episode was the reason why, which is a shock and disappointing. Going back to Peggy's ego, I'm sure you fellow Hooties are aware of the theory that Peggy's ego became more outrageous after the events of the Season 3 finale and Season 4 premiere. As Old as the Hills and Peggy Hill, The Decline and Fall respectively. But I don't think Mike Judge himself confirmed this. I would have to agree that her ego and sense of self-worth has gotten worse after this, even though she's always had an ego. I think this is a case of those characteristics of hers to be exaggerated as the series went on, whether you chalk it up to her character being flanderized, as characters tend to do as the series goes on. Most people agree that the skydiving incident is a point where it starts. And if I had to give a reason why this is an understandable reason as to why her ego has inflated since her near-death experience, she was in a full body cast and had to fight to be able to walk again. And granted, she was able to walk again with the help of cotton, I can understand how something like falling from as high as she did and survived would give someone a sense of pride.
I have had a near-death experience. Most people never get that, except when it's right next to their death experience, and then they can't appreciate it. I fell 8,000 feet and survived! Woo-hoo-hoo!
You really fell out of a plane?
Yes, sir, I did. Your mom is one of only 16 people who have survived parachutes not opening. Now, 16 is my estimate. I'll double-check my numbers later.
And I'm not defending any of Peggy's bad deeds before and after the skydiving incident, but I won't lie and say I don't understand her mindset from that point going forward. Then again, this could all just be coincidental, and her character was going to become what it is regardless of said incident. The point remains that more times than not, her ego is the root cause for all the hate she gets in the later seasons. Heck, even before. But that's just my hooded opinion. Let me know how you feel about Peggy Hill in the comments. You know how much I really appreciate you fellow Hooties' feedback and how it means a lot to me. I'll never stop saying this, but I can't thank you enough for all of your support for my goofy little channel and my not too detailed videos. At first glance, you would think that Bobby took home ec class to try and get a girl to like him, as the case with most cartoon shows or shows during that time. And to be fair, he does do that in the series Season 8 Episode 22, Talking Shop, where instead of taking shop class, Bobby enrolls in peer counseling in the hopes of meeting and pretending to be a peer counselor in order to ask girls out, which I don't need to explain how that's a horrible thing to do and how that can cause more damage than good by doing that. At least here, he seems to take an interest in home ec.
I'm ironing underwater. Bloop, bloop, bloop.
It doesn't help that the home ec teacher is a, well, for lack of better words, a mean old hag who isn't a fan of Bobby's sense of humor, calling him a class clown.
Don't test me, young man. I failed funnier kids than you.
And even smearing chocolate frosting on Bobby's uniform. Which, in my hooded opinion, what happens next, as well as deserve payback for that. Now I understand that Bobby can be lazy and not take things as serious as he should, hence to why he's built a reputation of being a class clown, but you don't need to go out of your way to make his assignment more difficult to prove some point. Later that night, a Monday night, as Hank lets us know.
Monday night, it must be Frito pie with Wolf brand chili.
I made it just the way you like it. Perfect.
If there's anything Peggy is known for aside from her Substitute of the Year trophies and her reputation of not being able to speak Spanish all that well despite her teaching it, which again has been theorized to have gotten worse after the near-death experience, is that she has her signature dishes, her Frito pie with Wolf brand chili, apple brown Betty, spa Peggy, and meatballs, and she seems to have them on specific days. Her serving Frito pie with Wolf brand chili on Mondays, fried pork chops on Tuesday, and spa Peggy and meatballs on Wednesday. And aside from her signature dishes being more than likely just creative food recipes that she saw on the side of a food box, but changed it slightly to give it that Peggy Hill style, and claims it as her own, it's obvious that she takes immense pride in her cooking, so much that she has a rotation of what dish she serves on that day, and we see how she reacts when something changes said rotation. As Hank goes to get Bobby for dinner, he discovers that Bobby is taking home ec, and at first isn't too happy.
Did you know your son is taking home ec? If Bobby learns to cook and clean for himself, what's his motivation to ever get married?
But Peggy tells Hank that it's not that big a deal.
Home ec is not going to turn Bobby into a sissy. In prison movies, the toughest characters always work in the kitchen.
Now I really don't know what she's referring to when she says the toughest people in prison movies are always the ones working in the kitchen. If you fellow Hooties know what she's referring to, let me know in the comments. I just want to point out Peggy and Hank's stance on Bobby being in home ec class here compared to later on in the episode, and we'll see if they feel the same way. we get the B plot, which honestly isn't all that interesting, aside from a few funny moments where Bill sinks a nice cooler shot only to be bet $1 million that he couldn't make it again, which he doesn't. And the B plot is basically Dale demanding the money from Bill, going as far as cleaning out Bill's bank account after Bill foolishly wrote him a check for $1 million, not thinking Dale would go and get said money draining his account, which would never have happened considering that Bill wasn't at the bank to authorize that transaction, like he would have even approved of it to begin with. But why would you write a check to Dale of all people when he is clearly just joking? But Dale, being Dale, took it seriously. The B-plot ending with Bill tricking Bobby into betting $1 million for Dale, which is not my favorite B-plots of the series. Dale sort of just gave Bill his money back and ended it there. The ending wasn't even that funny, and it paints both Bill and Dale in a bad light. Not to mention, it's not the best B-plots with Dale. Granted, there are plots involving Dale that don't paint him in a best light either. This one just makes him out to be some evil monster, when in reality, this probably ended real quick when Bobby went to Hank and said something to the effect of, "Hey Dad, Dale said I owe him $1 million, and Hank went to Dale's and ended that matter then and there. It's not the best way to end the episode, but with the B-plot out of the way, let's get back to the main plot, and the real reason for the review. While Peggy means well in trying to help Bobby with his assignment, she not only destroys the uniform, but also wrecks Hank's good dungarees. And how does she react to this?
Even world-famous surgeons do not get it right 100% of the time. They make mistakes and people die.
Because instead of simply saying, "Sorry Hank, I forgot your jeans were in there," while helping Bobby with his home ec assignment, which I also wrecked because I thought I was such a master of everything and didn't even do that right. And for that, I apologize. But no. You tried taking the high road again and made it seem like this was out of your control when you were the one that blindly dumped half a gallon of bleach in the wash, not seeing what was in there. And if you think this was bad, just wait. Bobby begs his home ec teacher for help with Hank's jeans, and she seems to actually help as Bobby makes Hank new jeans. And we see the beginning of Peggy's jealousy towards Bobby, even using Hank's power sander to improve the fit.
Peggy, he's right. I can feel the denim loosening up. I'm glad you ruined my jeans. Bobby's made them even better.
Funny how Peggy went from being supportive to jealous of Bobby when she was the one that was encouraging him from the start, but only when he was doing what she was doing, and when he started doing his own thing, or what his home ec teacher showed him and what he picked up, now she seems to have a problem with it. He also picks up the cooking bug as he's cooking a pot roast and buns, opening their bottle of wedding wine to marinate the roast. Peggy tries to assert her culinary dominance.
Yes, Bobby, I can handle the heat. So get out of my kitchen, because with pork, the slightest mistake could kill us all.
Well, the way you cook your pork chops, seeing Hank's reaction to eating that slab of gray pork leather you call a chop, I'd say you made a pretty big mistake. Now let's see how Hank reacts to Bobby's succulent and beautifully made pot roast.
Yeah, I'll help you with your homework.
Hank, you will spoil your appetite.
No, it's okay. Let's eat Bobby's pot roast now while it's still juicy. Your pork chops will be just as good tomorrow.
No. Wednesday is Spa Peggy and Meatballs Day. You can't have pork chops on Wednesday. That would throw off the whole rotation for Wednesday.
And before I continue on talking about how Peggy making things worse for herself than they already are, I just want to make one small observation that she really does look good in flannel. I don't know why I feel the need to make this observation, but I can't be the only one who thinks this. And if I'm not mistaken, she's worn that flannel shirt in a few episodes as well. The Valentine's episode, I believe, is one of them. Anyways, after complaining to Nancy about her leather pork chops being unappreciated, Nancy suggests that she uses the Ladies' Monthly magazine to give herself an unfair advantage. And well,
Hey, Peggy, why is the table covered with yard waste?
Hank, it is not yard waste. Or it will not be when I get through with it. It will be our new stunning Thanksgiving centerpiece. Made entirely of yard waste.
Dude, don't touch it, Bobby. Those nests could be full of fleas and ticks.
Not if you take the birds out. They'll build another nest. They're not just gonna let their eggs sit there on the sidewalk.
now this might be because yours Hootie is among the feathered persuasion, but how dare you take eggs out of a bird's nest and just lay them carelessly on the sidewalk, for who knows to just stomp by and flatten them. You better hope the mama bird returns for her eggs, or else Hoots will pay you a visit, and you don't want that, I tell you. What? Back to the review. As she's at her hairdresser Ernst at her hair, that we've never seen before this episode, as she has the parasites removed from her hair before she makes the situation with Bobby like she's getting cheated on, he gives her a makeover. Meanwhile, Bobby made a cozy for Hank's circular saw, and I doubt there's a practical reason for a circular saw to need a cozy or a circular saw buddy, as Hank suggested, but just look how they're bonding over something that's not grilling or propane. Now I know there are episodes that show them bonding over stuff, but it's always nice to see Hank take an interest in things Bobby likes. Peggy returns and goes right to putting the moves on Hank, right as Bobby says that dinner is ready.
Dinner?
When it got to be 5 o'clock and you weren't home, I asked Bobby to whip something up.
Well, that's a good idea. The sooner we eat, the sooner we can get to dessert.
I think Bobby made pie.
I don't think Hank was aware that Peggy was referring to another pie. Seeing Peggy act like this is surprising, not gonna lie. And look, we almost never see Peggy like, well, this, so forgive me, fellow Hooties, when I say, hoo-yeah! Unfortunately, her new hair puts a damper on her attempts at some after-dinner, whatever that was, as she goes to bed upset. And look, how did you think that was gonna play out? Your hair probably smells like bug killer. Buh. She leaves for the couch when she's surprised to see Bobby cleaning.
Bobby, put away your robot and go to bed. I need the couch. Your father's feeling ill. I think it was something he ate.
When he offers his room, since he seems to be set on cleaning all night. And I can admit that this was a weird time for Bobby to be cleaning at the couch at this time of night, but she makes it seem like he's doing something wrong. He even offers his room for her to sleep in. Hank sees Bobby using the upholstery shampooer and says he can bunk with him in the big room as they watch the news in San Antonio as they eat caramel popcorn and bond. And you would think that Peggy would be happy that they're actually bonding like father and son, you know, something that they've had a hard time doing considering Hank's upbringing with his dad and how he has a difficult time understanding Bobby. Them even having waffles for breakfast. But when she finds out that they spent all night talking,
Really talking.
this is her response. Peggy finds the ladies' monthly that Nancy gave her under Bobby's pillow and acts like this is some kind of smoking gun, telling Hank that home ec has ruined Bobby, and even says a line that we normally hear from Hank.
If you ask me, Hank, that boy ain't right.
Now I can repeat what I said about how she went from being the one that was okay with Bobby taking home ec to now being like Hank was at the start of the episode and is now completely against it. You're even saying Hank's signature line. But instead of being upset, Hank asks if he can make the buttermilk-basted turkey, to which Bobby had already gotten started on it last night, as Peggy is dismayed that she's not needed for Thanksgiving dinner. So what does she do when Bobby asks her to simply place the delicious turkey in the oven while Bobby and Hank look for the turkey platter? Why, she steals the bird and takes the bike on a mad dash to her hairstylist, thinking he would be the only one that needs her, and makes the assumption that he doesn't have a wife and kid. Which he does.
This is my wife, Claudia. and my little angel, Brett.
You have a family that loves you?
Yeah, he does. And guess what? You do too! Just because you're not cooking or cleaning doesn't mean they don't love or care about you. Your ego is so out of control that you can't see that Hank and Bobby really care about you and wanted to make Thanksgiving dinner this year as father and son. And even when Hank sends Bobby over to Bill's so he could eat Thanksgiving dinner, she acts like he doesn't need her for cooking their favorite dishes, as he has to remind her that he didn't marry her for her cooking or cleaning. And the episode ends without her saying sorry or acknowledging that she was in the wrong. I don't need to tell you fellow Hooties that this isn't one of my favorite episodes with Peggy, and I'm sure this isn't on your list of favorites either. It'd be one thing if she apologized to Hank and Bobby for what she did, you know, stealing the turkey that Bobby spent all night making, and Hank even making all her favorite dishes with her nasty table decoration. But no, she acts like she didn't do anything wrong, and the episode ends rather poorly in my opinion. But that was goodbye normal jeans. What do you think? Let me know what you thought of the episode and the review in the comments. As always, you fellows Hooties' opinions and feedback means a lot, and I can't thank you enough for all your support. Thank you for watching. I hope your Hootsgiving month is good, and I'll see you when you visit the Owlery again, and I give my hoot in the dark. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share with your fam, subscribe today and join the Parliament of Hoots, and let me know what you think of this episode in the comments below. Don't forget to check out my other social medias like Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, and my PlayStation Network account. Don't forget to check out these 2 videos, it'll take you to more of my content, and I can't wait to see you for another Hootsgiving.